You know, there's a huge human health controversy that has, believe it or not, spilled over into a place you might not expect at all, your vet's office. It's a really fascinating and frankly kind of worrying crossover, and it's putting our beloved pets, and maybe even us, at risk.
At the very heart of this whole thing is a really powerful emotion, love. Right? Our bond with our pets is just so strong that the fears we have for our human family are now directly impacting how we care for our animal companions.
So how in the world did this happen? Well, it all starts with a very, very human concern. We see our pets as these essential parts of our families, so it's only natural that our anxieties about health just extend to them.
And look, this isn't just a hunch, the research totally backs this up. A staggering 90% of dog owners consider their pet to be a member of the family. And when you see your dog as, a furry child, you naturally start worrying about their health in the exact same way.
So how does this deep concern actually translate into action? Well, the data shows a real, measurable shift in how pet owners are behaving.
In the United States, a recent study found that 22%, that's roughly 1 in every 5 dog owners, are now hesitant about routine pet vaccines. And here's the key. The research shows these views often perfectly mirror the owner's own hesitancy about human vaccines.
And this is definitely not just an American issue. If you look at the UK, the trend is even more pronounced. Medical records there showed that nearly a third of all dogs, 31%, are unvaccinated. This has really become a major international trend.
So what is driving this growing fear among so many loving, well-intentioned pet owners? Well, it often boils down to one very specific and probably very familiar concern.
The main fear actually mirrors one from the human health world, something people are calling canine autism. It's a label for behavioral changes that some owners are afraid are caused by vaccines. But, and this is so important to know, there is absolutely zero substantive scientific evidence that this condition even exists in dogs.
Okay, to really understand this, we have to trace the whole idea back to its original source. This is where we can see exactly why the scientific and medical communities just completely reject it. So how did a fear with absolutely no scientific basis in veterinary medicine become so widespread? Well, it didn't start with dogs. It all started with a single and now totally infamous human study. The whole history of this myth, it really traces back to one single source. Back in 1998, a fraudulent study by a guy named Andrew Wakefield was published. By 2010, that study was completely retracted and he'd lost his medical license. And since then, more than 19 studies across 7 countries involving over 1 million people have all reached the exact same conclusion. There is absolutely no link between vaccines and autism. The takeaway here is really simple and it's overwhelming. The scientific consensus is crystal clear, and it has been for years. And if that original link in humans has been so thoroughly debunked, well, the same logic just has to apply to this fear about a non-existent condition in dogs.
All right, so we've debunked the fear. Now let's turn to the very real, scientifically proven, and often fatal risks of not vaccinating our pets. This is where the consequences become incredibly serious.
Let's start with rabies. If a dog begins to show symptoms, the fatality rate is 100%, not 99, 100. There are no exceptions. It is a guaranteed death sentence for the animal, and it's completely preventable.
And it's not just rabies. Take canine parvovirus, another awful disease we vaccinate for. Even with the absolute best veterinary treatment money can buy, the fatality rate is still over 90%. These are just devastating, highly contagious diseases.
You know, the impact of pet vaccination goes way beyond our own dogs. It's a huge issue of global public health. In places like the US and Canada, where dog vaccination is mandatory, there are only 1 to 3 human rabies deaths a year, usually from wildlife. Now, contrast that with parts of Asia and Africa. Over 55,000 people die from rabies annually, and 99% of those cases are caused by unvaccinated dogs.
And what would happen if that public health shield just disappeared? One estimate suggests that if mandatory dog vaccinations were to stop in the US, the number of people dying from rabies each year could skyrocket to over 12,000. That's the kind of protection we're talking about.
So, given these insane stakes, what's the alternative that's being proposed? I mean, if you choose not to vaccinate, what does that actually mean for your pet's life?
This quote from a holistic vet, which was featured on an anti-vaccine website, it really lays out the solution: a life of forced isolation. No dog parks, no public areas, no contact with other dogs.
This isn't just about health, it's a choice that basically condemns a social animal to a world of solitude just to protect it from preventable diseases.
And that really brings us to the final crucial question. This decision, it doesn't exist in a vacuum. It forces all of us to ask whether our responsibility is only to our own individual pet, or if it actually extends to protecting the health of every pet and every single person in our entire community.